Hi, Caleb from Brownells here, and this is the second part of the How to Paint Your Gun series featuring Aluma-Hyde, and now we're going to be going over surface preparation. So just real quick, in our last video we talked about what Aluma-Hyde was, why you'd want to use it, stuff you needed, and common issues. Alright, so now we're jumping into actual surface prep. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, Aluma-Hyde II, despite the name having aluma, a lot of people think it's just for aluminum. That's not true. You can use it on pretty much anything. I even like painting some of my kids' toys with it. I get crazy with it. Aluma-Hyde, like for me, Aluma-Hyde II is like Frank's Red Hot because I'm putting that stuff on everything. All right, so it's not just for aluminum. Now, speaking of aluminum, that's probably the most common thing it is painted with, though, because a lot of your AR-15 guys, including myself, we're painting AR-15s with this stuff, and AR-15s are mostly aluminum and polymer. All right. So whenever you're dealing with aluminum, so this handguard right here, this is the Midwest Industries Night Fighter. Really good handguard, one of my favorites that Midwest actually makes. And we're going to be painting it. Now, surface preparation for anodized aluminum. What you can do is just degrease this whole thing as is, get it nice and degreased, and then you can start painting from there once the acetone's dry. But for even more durability of the spray-on finish, what you can do is lightly grit blast it if you have access to a blast cabinet. Only use 120 grit aluminum oxide if you're going to blast it. Like I said, it's optional. You don't have to. I rarely do. I sometimes do, like on my tactical games gun I showed in the last video. I did blast that. I wanted maximum durability of that finish, and it speaks for itself. But like I said, you don't have to do that. But if you're going to do it, like I said, 120 grit aluminum oxide. Don't use anything else. Some people try to use glass beads and different things like that. Don't use that for putting on any kind of like painted finish, because whenever you use that, you're painting the surface, and even though it appears to be rough, it's actually making that metal even smoother because you're shot painting it. Use an abrasive like aluminum oxide, okay? Now, with that out of the way, once you blast it, obviously you need to clean it again because it'll have dust on it. But that's that. We're not going to be getting into that too much here. We're just going to be doing it the basic way. We're not going to blast it. Now, next step here, another thing I want to talk about with aluminum. Some of your older ARs, like I think DPMS, if I'm not mistaken, used to do this. They would actually put like a protective film over their anodizing. It's not common. I don't know of anyone that's really doing that today. But if your gun does have that, if you have an old gun, you need to remove that because the Aluma-Hyde's not going to stick properly. In that case, you would definitely need to blast it 100%. But all your modern guns, you don't have to worry about that stuff. All right, so that's pretty much aluminum. It's that easy, and we'll go over how to properly degrease it here shortly. All right, with polymers like this Magpul MOE SL grip, really good grip. Not so much for heavier guns, but for lighter guns. That's not the point of this video. All right, when you're doing polymer, especially a polymer that's kind of has a rough texture like this already, all you need to do is just degrease it and you're good to go. I know a lot of people out there say don't paint your grip because it wears out fast, whatever. Yeah, it's going to wear out faster than anything else because that's where you have the most friction contact with the gun. But that's not to say it's going to wear out fast. I've painted grips that have shown absolutely no sign of wear in the past, and painting a grip is perfectly acceptable with Aluma-Hyde II. And that goes for any polymer. Like if you're doing a Magpul stock or something like that, you want to disassemble that stock as much as you can, like the latch piece, the butt pad, pull all that stuff off of there. And then paint each piece individually. That's the way to do it. Don't try and paint it assembled. You're not going to be able to get full coverage on everything. Trying to get in all the crevices, you're going to end up overspraying, and it's just not worth it. So, like I said, disassemble everything completely. And when it comes to your upper receivers, lower receivers, different things like that, completely disassemble them, strip it all the way down. If you don't know how to strip down your upper receiver, go check out the build series on our website. It shows you everything you need to know. every little piece, everything. Now, once you have everything completely disassembled, we can actually start degreasing it. But before I show you how to degrease these two, I want to go over some other materials. Now, if you want to paint blued steel, if it's a matte blued steel, so the not super shiny blued steel, you can, in most cases, you can degrease that and then paint over it. Stainless steel, same thing, as long as it's not a shiny stainless steel. Stainless steel that's matte is essentially grit blasted. Now, you can paint over that as well if you degrease it. When it comes to all the steels, whether it be blued steel, stainless steel, anything like that, just to be on the safe side, because you don't know what that was, what it was blasted with, I like to blast all that. 120 grit aluminum oxide, blast all that stuff to get the most durable finish. If you don't do it, and let's say you have a stainless steel, and that stainless steel was, blasted with glass beads, I mean, there's no way for you to really know that. You could run into flaking if you put your paint over that surface. It is what it is. That's with any paint. That's not just Aluma-Hyde II. That's anything. So if you can, grit blast all that stuff. All right, so let's talk about wood. Wood's kind of where it gets a little bit tricky, because a lot of your older wooden finishes, or just most wooden finishes in general, have an oil-based finish on it. I personally, every time I refinish a stock, I do a hand-rubbed oil finish with a tung oil base. You can't paint over that stuff. You got to strip it all off. So if you want to paint a wooden stock, put some stripper on it, strip it all off, let it dry. For stripper, I prefer citrus strip, the like orange gooey stuff. That's what I use personally. You can use whatever you want. Just get all that finish off, let it dry. All right. Some wooden finishes you can paint over. Like if you have one of those like really thick epoxy finishes that's basically like a paint, most of the time you can paint over that. Like if you did an acroglass finish on your stock, you can paint over that and you're good to go. All right, so most of y'all aren't going to be painting wood, but if you are, there's some things you need to know. All right, let's talk about how to actually do it. Let's actually do some stuff instead of just talking about it now. I didn't put gloves on for nothing. All right. So the black iron wire I mentioned before, this is what you're going to be using to hang your parts. You don't need a large piece. You don't need, I'll see people that, take the black iron wire. They'll have like 4 pieces trying to hold up like one handguard. I'm like, what are you doing, guy? It's iron wire. It's strong enough to hold up, pretty much anything you're holding up. All right. So the black iron wire also, because it's black iron, it comes in the bag with a little bit of grease on it. And I'll just, take some acetone and a cloth and wipe it down. Degrease your black iron wire, okay? Now, actually holding the parts. You don't have to get crazy and, do all kind of like weird wraps and stuff. What I typically like to do, especially on handguards like this, and something to consider is if it's already been installed or not. This is something a lot of people will skip and not even think about. So typically on a new handguard, I would hang it from the mounting screws like this, but I pulled this handguard off of a gun that was already on. So there's a ton of grease in this bottom portion here. What I don't want to do is create more work for myself, hang it here, and have all that, as I'm trying to clean it off, all that grease is running down here, and I'm just chasing my tail. It's going to take way longer to clean properly. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do with handguards and hang it this way. Like I said, if this was a brand new handguard, I'd hang it from this end, just because going through these mounting holes is a little bit easier. Now, I'll hang it this way. All right. So identify on your handguard, where you can run this wire, because we're going to keep this wire with it the whole time. So this is going to be the wire we use to surface prep, and it's also going to be the wire we use when we're painting. So we need to think about that. Where's this wire going to go through that's going to allow us, it's not going to block our spray is what I'm trying to get at here. Just words are hard, and it is what it is. So whenever I'm going through a small hole like this, and I know I'm going to have to spray a lot around it, I'll do a wide loop here. All right, so I'll go through, and this handguard is relatively light. So in most cases, you know, what I would do, or what you don't want to do, I'll show you what not to do. Don't do something like this here, because that blocks a lot of your spray. If you're going through something like this and you do a really wide, loop here. Let me actually hook it. I promise I've done this before. All right. So if you do a wide loop like this, that's going to block less of your spray whenever you're spraying, right? So that's a good way to do it. Another good way to hang this would be, I'm just kind of showing you a bunch of different stuff here so you have options and you can make the best, you can make an informed decision on what's right for the piece you're trying to work on. Because I can't possibly cover every piece here. All right, so another way to do it would be to just go through the hole and route my wire downward. Just kind of pinch the wire in. And just kind of run it so it's not going to fall out unless I actually try to like put some force on it and pull it out. That's another way to do it, so you only have one side that's obstructed. Depending on the piece, that's a really good option. I typically don't like to do this on handguards, and you can see why. There's really no way to do it without having the wire rubbing on it. But that's a good option for a lot of different pieces, especially this grip we're about to do here, and I'll show you on that one as well. All right, so the preferred method here is going to be the wide loop. So we'll go back to that. And there we have it, the wide loop. All right, so I'll set that aside. Actually, I'll just hang it in the spray booth here. All right. All right, I'll grab another piece of wire here and show you how I like to hang grips. I've seen people go all the way through the length of the grip and then fold it over. I don't really like to do that. I mean, that's good. It gives you a little bit more control depending on how you're spraying. But honestly, what I like to do is just, I'll make a loop, right? And I'll push it through the hole for the screw and then come out the other end and then open the loop. So it's now captured. And there, nothing that's visible whenever it's installed is blocking your spray. So you can spray everything just like this. And that's how I hang grips and any other thing pretty much like this. That's the best way to do it. And I use the method we did before. I just ran it through one side, opened it up, and locked it in. And it's not going anywhere. I can pull it and it'll come off, but it's whenever I'm actually painting, I'm not going to lose it. All right, so we'll hang that up as well. And that's kind of the basics of using wire to hang your parts. I don't like using string. Some people use string. I hate using string because you can't do wide loops like that. The string's going to run right up the sides. Absolutely hate it. Black iron wire doesn't care. If you're baking your parts, black iron wire doesn't care what temperature you're baking it at. It's going to hold steady. All right. Now, let's actually spray some stuff. Before we start spraying, we're going to throw in some iPro because acetone in your eyeballs is one of the worst things in the world. All right. So we got some iPro on. Nothing fancy, just basic, whatever protection, okay? Now, we poured some of our acetone into the spray bottle, and I will note, acetone will absolutely wreck a lot of spray bottles out there, the seals and stuff in them. So what I typically do is I'll have, I'll put my acetone in, I'll spray what I need to spray, then I'll take off my nozzle and empty it out the best I can, and not actually like store acetone in the actual like pickup tube of the spray bottle, because it'll wreck the bottle. All right. Now, when I'm spraying, this is what I use the bin for here. I'm going to start at the top and basically just chase all the oil and contaminants downward and let it run off into this bin. All right. So I'm just going to, nice and easy, spray it at the top here. And do this in a well-ventilated place. You don't need a respirator for this part, but there are fumes coming off, so do it with some ventilation. All right, and you can see the acetone already starting to dry on here. We'll just let it dry a bit. And something else I'll show you here. Now listen to me. What I'm about to show you, I'm giving you some dangerous information, okay? Acetone is extremely flammable, okay? It will wreck you. So set your bottle somewhere far away, okay? And then take a hairdryer or a heat gun, and you can speed up the process. So I got a heat gun here. I'm gonna move this out the way, turn it on. Alright, we'll set that down. And as you can see, that's basically just speeding up the process. And now at this point, you can see all these wet looking spots. Now that the acetone's dry, that's all oil. That's stuff that can create a failure in our finish. So we just need to basically keep running with that acetone, spray it, acetone will pick it up, it'll run off the bottom. And we're just going to chase all of it down to the bottom in just that fashion, getting acetone inside and out. And you don't have to hang it to do this, you can freehand it like so. And if you have a stubborn area of oil, just kind of use the force of the blast to push it out of there. All right, and we're just chasing it down. And now that the part's warm, that acetone is drying super fast. I don't know if you can actually see it drying now, but I'll spray some on there so you can just kind of watch it dry. And we'll just keep doing that. Once the acid, like I said before, when you see the acetone dry, any like wet looking spots, that's oil, just keep spraying it off. Chase it all down. Might need a little more here. All right, so the top of it's looking pretty good. That's acetone, that's not dry up there. But on the bottom here, that's all oil. So that's gonna have to go. But the top is looking pretty good. You'll see it starts looking like super, like just crusty and dry and ashy. That's fine. That's how it's gonna look. That's okay. As long as you don't see oil. Alright, so we're looking pretty good here. I'm just gonna get some more of that stuff off the bottom. Alright, we'll just chase it on down. We don't need to start at the top again. The top's good. We'll just start where we need to. Now we're wearing gloves to protect our hands, but also to protect the workpiece from our hands, because we got some greasy fingers. All of us, not just me. I'm talking to you too. Everybody. Trying to get as much as I can on the inside where that barrel nut was, because there's a good bit of oil there. Alright, so we're just going to let that dry. And we'll do the same thing on our plastic piece. Some really cheap plastic, if you're buying your whatever Chinese wish.com AR-15 parts, the acetone may melt your parts, and I'm real sorry about that. Buy quality components, all right? Your Magpul stuff, your Bravo Company, B5, whatever, all your good stuff is going to be just fine. Usually this kind of stuff doesn't have too much oil on it. If you've had it installed on a gun before, there may be some oil around the actual screw hole, but nothing that's really going to inhibit anything. And you're just going to look for the same thing. You can use a heat gun on this, be careful. Stuff like this, I'd recommend just using a hair dryer. Go into your wife's, bathroom, whatever, the his and her section, go over to the her section, grab her hair dryer, and do work. Or if you're a female and you don't want to use your hair dryer, if you have a husband with phenomenal hair like me, go take his hair dryer. Alright, so I'm just gonna get a little bit more on the bottom here. Just chase off anything down there. With grips, I don't really worry about the inside too much. I'll get a little bit of Aluma-Hyde in there, but I won't try and coat the whole inside, because that's silly. All right, and we don't want to be silly. No, we'll just let that dry, and that's really all you need to do for the prep work. Like I said before, you could blast it. We're not doing that. I'll show you what areas you kind of need to seal off, especially if you're doing. I usually don't spray barrels, but if you want to spray a barrel, I'll show you how to do that. Reason is because this stuff here, the temperature rating isn't what it is on some of your higher end bake-on finishes. The maximum heat for Aluma-Hyde II is a little under 300 degrees, all right, which is about half of what your Cerakote is, and then your gun coat is actually like 900 degrees, so that's probably like one of the best as far as heat goes. So if you want something really heat resistant, go with gun coat. And we'll do this series again and just focus on gun coat. But for now, like I said, this is all about Aluma-Hyde II, something anybody can apply at home. All right, gun coat, you do need more stuff. It's not as in-depth as Cerakote. It's easier than Cerakote, but it is. There is a lot more equipment required. Now that we have all of this done, we're just going to let it dry here. And I'll basically just show you all the tips and tricks once we actually start spraying. All right. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. So hit that notification bell as well, so you get the notification whenever the next video drops. Then we're actually going to start painting stuff. It's going to be awesome. All right. Don't miss it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.